I got an email from Apple where they informed me that my Join Cycling app subscription was going to be extended for another year, and that if I didn't want that, I had to go and cancel it. Now, the thought didn't even cross my mind, so I thought maybe it's a good idea if I create a video to explain why I'm so convinced of my continuation with this particular training solution. So, as you might have gathered from my little introduction there, I'm a fan of Join Cycling, and it's not because it makes me a faster cyclist. It makes me a faster cyclist, but it's not just because of that. All of the methodologies that I've used in the past have made me a better cyclist. I used to work with Trainer Road. That made me a better cyclist. I, at some point, also lifted random plans off the internet and then just kind of try to stitch them together. That made me faster. And just randomly riding around without any structure or any plan also made me faster, right? So over the past couple of years, I've had these builds that I've done working towards Gran Fondo events and multiple Gran Fondo events. Everything that I've kind of done or used as a platform or as a method has essentially made me faster and has allowed me to start these events in a good to very good shape. The last prep that I did was the one that I did with Join. That was the first time that I actually used them for a full year. And that prep culminated with me reaching the best fitness I've ever had, and also me putting down the best numbers that I've ever put down in a Gran Fondo event. As I'm now in this massive prep towards the RBC Gran Fondo Forte event next year in September, which is still a while away. But I'm going to be getting into the meat and the potatoes of the prep. And again, there wasn't any doubt in my mind as to what I would be using. I Join, that's it, 100%. I first heard about the Join app on a podcast called Getting Better, or Beter Worden, as it's actually a Dutch podcast. It's a podcast co-hosted by Laurens ten Dam, former World Tour pro, now turned gravel pro. And one of the other hosts is a guy called Jim van den Berg, who is, I think, the founder or co-founder of Join. I think he's a sports scientist coach. I think he even coaches Taco van der Hoorn on the 1T team, World Tour Pro team. And on the podcast, they were talking about various things in relation to, improvements and getting better as a cyclist. And one of the topics they kept coming back to was the use of this Join app. That kind of triggered me. And what particularly triggered me was the adaptability and flexibility that they were talking about how the app apparently allowed you to change your availability, and then the app on the fly would alter and modify your training plan or training session on that given day. And so I went off and actually checked out the app and then signed up. So before we go any further with the video, I do want to make it clear that I am not supported, sponsored, endorsed, or anything like that by Join. At the time of the creation of this video, I think my channel has about 12 subscribers. We're going to go to 13 because my mom actually promised she would finally get a YouTube account and sign up, so fingers crossed. Joking aside, it's my view purely personally, and it's not kind of influenced by any type of commercial engagement. All right, now that we've cleared that up, let's actually take a look at the Join app and see how it all works. So one important thing to note is that the Join app doesn't offer a interactive writing environment. It is an app that is very focused on training. So the value of the app is presenting you with adequate training plans. If the whole interactive thing is something that you're looking for, riding around, racing, riding against other people, riding with other people, then Join will not be for you. If you're the type of person that just wants a killer training solution that fits around your lifestyle, Join is definitely something you are going to want to take a look at. So Join will ask you what your goal is. In my opinion, that's what any decent training app should do. What are you actually training for? And it gives you the opportunity to actually select real life events, Fondo events and races. For example, La Marmotte in the Alps is there, and many other events are there as well. And the really cool thing is that it has done the analysis for you. And when I mean with analysis, it has kind of figured out what type of training you will need to do to be able to arrive at the start line in tip-top shape. Longer Fondo events with a lot of climbing, it will calibrate your training towards that. If they're shorter, snappier events that might require some more anaerobic power, it will gear your training towards that. Now, besides that, it also has more generic plans, which are a little bit more in line with, I guess, other training apps. So, you have a winter plan, you've got like an FTP builder and that sort of stuff. And that's all great. But for me personally, where I think it really packs a punch in terms of value is in the selection of the actual event. And then it throws out a training plan calibrated towards that. So when we actually go into the app and we boot up the app from the phone, we will always be directed to kind of a main dashboard. And on the main dashboard, you kind of have a progress view that tells you how many days you've got remaining to your upcoming goal, and then a percentage progress as well. Top left, you've got a profile button that you can click, and then also edit. You can go ahead and change some of your athletic data. You also get to look at what your FTP is as you set it, and also what your eFTP change is based on your recent training. That's kind of join that tells you what your FTP should be based on the training volume that you have done. If we go back into the main screen, on the top right, you have a settings page where you can basically access a few bits and pieces in relation to your subscription, your connected accounts like Strava and what have you, right? Now, that's all good, but where the app really packs a punch is in the actual training. So when we take a look here, you see that there is a training pending today, so we can actually go and take a look. And then we are directed to a new screen, which is an overview screen of the training in and of itself, right? So to give you an idea what my goal is, and if you were to want to change your goal when you're already in a plan. Now, if you start your join journey, the first thing it will do is it will ask you for that plan, and then it will throw out your plan, like I said. But now I've already got that selected. Now, if you were to want to change it, you just go here to the three dots at the top right, and you can go ahead and change your goal. You can also adjust your availability, and you can do another couple of bits and pieces here. Now, if I click on change your goal, you'll see that my goal is a multi-day event. Now, in my case, this actual event that I'm participating in wasn't part of their lists. They have a whole lot of events in there. This one wasn't part of it. Maybe it'll be part of it at a later stage. But what you can do then is you can still create your own event, and it will ask you a few things, the number of days, the total distance, and the total amount of elevation. And then based on that, again, it will go ahead and create your plan. So as a quick side note, I am currently building out my full prep plan with a couple of preparation races towards the RBC Gran Fondo next year. I'll be doing a video on how that plan looks like, so it'll give some of the people that are watching this actual series and are tagging along an idea of what's to happen. Now, my first anchor point will be a multi-day stage race of 2 days, right? So that's what I'm currently training for. So if we go back, then what you can also go and do is check your plan. You see here the green training icon. You can click your plan, and then you'll get an overview of the phases of the plan. As you can see, I'm in this phase right now here, which is about 8 hours of training, and then I should ideally go into a block of 4 weeks of 11 hours of training. You can see that here, and then it will tell you, if you scroll down, a bit of an explanation as to what that phase is all about. If we move forward, you'll see that I then get a rest week, and then we go into another big block of training right all the way up into the taper for the event. So that kind of gives you an overview of what's to come for you. We come out of that, then we really get into the good stuff. Here there's a button which is requesting you to adjust your availability if needed. This is availability adjustment on a day-to-day basis, right? I'll come back to that in a little minute. So today, November 22nd, is the day that I'm creating this video. I have a 12 by 4 minute intensive endurance interval on the schedule, right? I have about an hour and 10 that I can train today. That's what I originally thought I would have. So that is the training that I'm supposed to do today. We can actually open the training and it will tell you what the training is all about with a little descriptive note. 12 intervals of 4 minutes in the intensive zone with 1 minute rest in between. Try to keep the cadence around 90 RPM. And then it breaks down the workout. My FTP is currently set to 250. And then it will show you what the blocks are that you have to do. So we'll start off with a 5 minute block between 150 and 175. And then we'll do 12 reps of 4 minutes in between 175 and 200 with a minute of rest in between. And then to wrap it off, we have a 5 minute block between 150 and 175. So a pretty run-of-the-mill endurance workout. Now, if you were to want to do this indoors, you can simply hit the start workout button here and it will then detect your device via Bluetooth, your Wahoo trainer or whatever tax trainer that you've got, right? So as you saw in the app there, today I set the app up so that it gave me a training session based on my current availability, which is about an hour. I thought I was gonna have an hour. Now I'm a little bit lucky. My schedule's kind of changed around today, and so I'm able to adjust my availability, and I'm going to bump that up to around about 2 hours. And so then it will change the training session based on that availability. Now, had it been the other way around, where I would say, well, something's happened, my daughter got sick, or I've got to go and do something that I didn't envision, you can slide the slider all the way to not 0 hours of availability, and then obviously it won't give you a training session, but it will alter your plan so that the next day it will give you maybe a different training session because it probably will try to recuperate some of that lost training. If we go then and adjust the availability of my session, it will ask you whether you want to change the availability for the entire week, because it typically will ask you to kind of set your availability for the entire week. But you can also do it on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to hit this day. And you see I had set my availability to 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now, if I bump that up to 2 hours with the slider and we hit the done button, you'll see that it has changed my workout to 5 by 5 minutes intensive endurance intervals at 2 hours, right? And that, my friends, is the beauty of Join. Being able to not have to think about working on and modifying my training plan when things go a bit sideways with planning is absolutely amazing to me. I mean, I am a person that loves my plans, I love my structure, and when things go out the window, it can sometimes be a bit difficult for me to kind of deal with that mentally. And so having a solution like this is just so important. So if you kind of, recognize that type of behavior, and if you can associate with that, I think this type of solution might be absolutely something for you. Alrighty, now that we have covered all of that, let's actually get ready and go and do the ride that Join is asking us to ride today. And we're ready to go. Thing to note is that Join will also allow you to include/insert rides that might not immediately fit into the proposed schedule. You might want to go and do a ride ad hoc with some friends, or there's an event, or there's something that pops up. Well, then you can actually go ahead and insert that into your plan. So Join will ask you to fill in certain parameters like length and how intense it's going to be, and then it will modify your training plan accordingly. So what Join will also do is it will warn you if you are riding too much. So in the same way as it will tell you that you are not riding enough based on your availability when you continuously kind of put in rides that are less than prescribed, it will also tell you that you're riding too much when you continuously ride longer and more intense than what Join is prescribing. It will warn you that you're at risk of overtraining. A cool example of this is when you go on a cycling holiday or an amateur training camp, you're going to put in a lot more volume than you normally would, and so Join will probably warn you of that. But what it should also do then is it will
modify your training plan. It will give you a bit of rest and kind of tone it down because you put in a lot of volume that you shouldn't have, or, well, maybe not that you shouldn't have, but that it wasn't anticipating. Right, so maybe interesting to know as well is that Join uses the polarized training methodology. What that means, overly simplified, is that you ride a lot of the time kind of easy-ish, and then some of the time you ride very, very fast. If you're interested in that, go and look up polarized training method, and you'll be able to spend a lifetime reading up on that. Before I get cold, I'm going to crack on with these higher zone 2 intervals, and then I will see you on the flip side. And that is done with the time in higher zone 2. Alright, so is it all sunshine and rainbows then with this Join app? Of course not. Very few things, if any, in life are perfect, with the exception of my wife, of course. And there are a few things in the Join app that are not perfect. So one thing that doesn't sit very well with me is the length of their training blocks. As you saw earlier in the video, I'll have a training block of about, what is it now, 5 or 6 weeks coming up? I mean, to me, that's just a bit excessive, and mentally becomes a bit of a struggle. So I don't really like that. So I have to, I kind of end up manipulating it and then taking a rest week by changing my availability. So that I don't entirely like. And as a Wahoo user, they don't have a direct export to my head unit. They do for Garmin, but they don't for Wahoo. At least I haven't been able to find it. So they actually end up sending you an email when you export the training, and it arrives in a file. For me, not very ideal, and I just kind of end up remembering what the blocks are and then just doing it that way. And then the RPE score. So at the end of each training, as you'll see, you get to enter your RPE of that particular session. Now, many times I've entered an RPE which was apparently higher than it should have been, and then it tells you, that RPE is higher than it should be. We will take that into account. Yet, I've never really seen much difference in the training. It just seems to just stick to the training session that was already in the plan. So unless they change something later on, like a couple of weeks later, I don't really have the impression as a user that they do anything with that. And then the last thing, which kind of annoys me a little bit, is the way that they approach the taper. So with each build that I've done and each event that I've worked towards, Join's idea of a taper is just to not ride for 2 days. I mean, that's how it's been for me. Now, if I do that, I end up at the start line with absolutely dead legs and not the best feeling. I know I have to do some riding and ideally do some spicy efforts the day before. Not crazy, but just, keep a bit of spunk in the legs. So yeah, not a big fan of how they approach their taper. Alright, so we've made it back home, and now it's time to go ahead and upload our ride to Strava. Now, I have actually connected my account to Strava in the Join app, so it uploads that automatically. You'll see that we have the ride in front of us, 2 hours and 29 minutes. I actually ended up miscalculating the route a little bit. It took me a bit longer, so 2 hours and a half instead of 2 hours. So that ride is here on Strava, and if we then go back to the actual Join app, and it asks you for workout feedback. So then we go in and we see here today's ride connected, has been integrated, has been kind of pulled from Strava. And what it will ask us to do then is it will ask us how it went. It will suggest an RPE based on the wattage and then how that compares to your FTP. And to me, it says that that's supposed to feel like an RPE 4, moderate, an intensity that you could hold for a very long time. That's kind of true, although I felt a little bit more like a 5 for me, which is a workout on an intensity that you could hold for a long time. Because, even though the legs felt good, I think 4 is a little bit too low, if I'm being perfectly honest. So a 5 kind of feels better in this case. If we take a look at what a 6 is, that would be somewhat hard. It wasn't somewhat hard, a 5 is okay. And then it is adding the training plan, and then you can see that the training plan has been updated. There you go.
All right, now that we are freshened up, let's go ahead and conclude this video. So even though I listed a few negative things for me, some things that maybe could be improved at a price point of give or take 89 euros a year, this really is a no-brainer for me. I mean, that is just great value. Now, can you get a better training methodology, or can you get better kind of training support by getting a personal coach? Of course, that is always going to be, provided it's a good coach, the best solution. But if you look at what that's going to cost you, and then you look at what you get for 89 euros a year with Join, again, the level of flexibility, adaptability, the training sessions, I think for me personally, as an amateur cyclist, that is more than enough and by far the best solution for me. So if you have liked what you've seen and heard, and if you kind of associate with some of those things, I would recommend you go ahead and actually check them out, download the app and have a go yourself. I do not have a discount code because, again, I am not affiliated with Join. That just leaves me with the following. Thank you very much for watching. If you are interested in following my journey along, how I prepare, how I progress towards my big goal, the RBC Forte Gran Fondo, subscribe to the channel. If you like this particular video, like the video as well. It would be very much appreciated. So thanks again. Have a good rest of the day wherever you are, whatever you do, and I will hopefully see you soon.